My dear friends, tonight we shall explore profound truth, a secret that lies at the very heart of creation itself. Our topic is Be Silent. You will get everything in life. Now, do not be deceived by the simplicity of these words, for within them lies the key to unlocking the vast riches of the universe, the power to shape your reality according to your deepest desires. Let us begin by understanding what we mean by silence. This is not merely the absence of sound, though that may be a part of it. No, the silence we speak of is a state of consciousness, a way of being that transcends the incessant chatter of the mind and the ceaseless demands of the external world. It is in this silence that we find our true selves, our divine nature and our oneness with the infinite. In the book of Kings we read, "And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake, and after the earthquake a fire. The Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire a still small voice." This still small voice, my friends, is the silence we seek. It is in this silence that we commune with our divine nature, with the God within us. If you see, you are not separate from God. You are God expressing itself in human form. And it is in the silence that you remember this truth. Now you might ask, "Wayne, how can being silent get me everything in life?" To answer this, we must first understand the nature of reality. The world you see around you, the circumstances of your life, are nothing more than outpictured states of consciousness. Your consciousness is the one and only reality. Everything else, your body, your environment, the events of your life, these are but shadows, reflections of your state of consciousness. In the silence, you have the power to choose the state of consciousness you wish to embody. You see, in your normal waking state, your mind is filled with the noise of your current reality. Your thoughts constantly reaffirm the world as it appears to be. But this apparent reality is nothing more than the fruit of past thoughts and assumptions. When you enter into the silence, you create a space in which you can plant new seeds, assume new states. In this silence, you can feel yourself to be the person you wish to be, living the life you desire to live. And remember, feeling is the secret. It is not enough to merely visualize or affirm. You must feel the reality of your desire with every fiber of your being. Let me give you an example. Suppose you desire financial abundance. In your day-to-day life, you may be constantly aware of lack, of bills to be paid, of desires unfulfilled. But in the silence, you can feel the joy, the freedom, the security of abundant wealth. You can walk through your imagination, feeling the soft carpet beneath your feet in your beautiful home, feeling the weight of your full wallet in your pocket, feeling the joy of generosity as you share your abundance with others. As you dwell in this state, feeling it to be real, you are impressing this new concept of self upon your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind, being your faithful servant, will work day and night to bring about the conditions that match this new self-concept. You see, the subconscious mind knows no difference between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience in the outer world. This is why feeling is so crucial. When you feel the reality of your desire, your subconscious accepts it as fact and goes to work to make it so in your outer world. Now, some of you may be thinking, "But Wayne, I've tried visualization and affirmations before and they didn't work." My dear friends, the reason they didn't work is that you were likely still holding on to your old concept of self, your old beliefs about what is possible for you. You were trying to change the fruit while leaving the root intact. This is where the power of silence comes in. In the silence, you can let go of all that you think you know about yourself and the world. You can release all your limiting beliefs, all your doubts and fears in the silence. You are free to assume a new state of consciousness, to embody a new concept of self. Remember, your assumptions, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. So in the silence, persist in the assumption that you are the person you wish to be, that you have the things you desire to have, that you live the life you long to live. Feel the naturalness of this state. Live from this state in your imagination until it feels more real to you than your present circumstances. Now let us delve deeper into the nature of this silence. You might be wondering, how do I achieve this state of silence? The answer, my friends, is simpler than you might think. You need not retreat to a mountaintop or spend years in meditation. The silence is always there, waiting for you to enter into it. Begin by finding a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. As you breathe, become aware of the thoughts passing through your mind. Do not try to stop them or change them. Simply observe them as you would watch clouds passing across the sky. As you continue to observe, you will notice that the spaces between your thoughts begin to grow. These spaces are the doorway to the silence. Gently turn your attention to these spaces. Feel yourself sinking into them, expanding into them. In time, you will find yourself in a state of profound stillness. Your mind will be clear, your body relaxed. It is in this state that you are most receptive to new ideas, new concepts of self. It is in this state that you can most easily impress upon your subconscious mind the reality which you experience. Now, let me be clear. This is not about escaping from your current reality. It is about transcending it. In the silence, you rise above the limitations of your physical senses and connect with the infinite that is your nature. Remember the words of Scripture. Be still and know that I am God. In the stillness, in the silence, you come to know your true self, your God self. And from this knowing, all things become possible. Let us consider another aspect of this silence. In your daily life, you are constantly reacting to the world around you. Someone says something unkind and you feel hurt. You see a news report about economic troubles and you feel afraid. You encounter a problem at work and you feel stressed. But in the silence, you create a space between stimulus and response. You create a moment in which you can choose your reaction. Choose the state of consciousness you wish to embody. This is true power, my friends. This is the freedom to create your reality consciously rather than merely reacting to circumstances. In the silence, you can choose to feel abundance in the face of apparent lack. You can choose to feel love in the face of apparent hostility. You can choose to feel peace in the face of apparent, and as you persist in these chosen states, you will see your outer world begin to reflect them. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Wayne, how long will this take? When will I see results? My dear friends, time is an illusion of the physical world. In the realm of consciousness, in the silence, all things exist now. Your desire is fulfilled now. Your wish is realized now. Your task is not to make your desire happen, but to align your consciousness with the reality of its fulfillment. As you do this, as you live from the end in your imagination, you will find that events in your outer world will rearrange themselves to match your new state of consciousness. Remember, the outside world is a shadow, a reflection of your inner world. Change the inner and the outer must change. This is law. Let me share with you a technique that I have found particularly powerful. I call it revision. At the end of each day, before you sleep, enter into the silence. In this state of relaxed awareness, review the events of your day. But here's the key. Revise any events that were not to your liking. If someone was rude to you, revise the scene in your imagination. See them being kind and courteous. If you face a challenge at work, revise it. See yourself handling the situation with ease and confidence. If you received news of lack or limitation, revise it. See yourself receiving news of abundance and opportunity. As you do this, feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of these revised events. Fall asleep in this state, feeling gratitude for your wonderful day. You will find that this practice not only improves your mood and helps you sleep better, but it also begins to change the pattern of events in your waking life. You see, my friends, revision is not merely a psychological trick. It is a spiritual practice that aligns you with the truth of your being. In reality, there is only the eternal now. By revising the events of your day, you are literally rewriting your past, and in doing so, changing your future. Now, let's address a question that may be arising in some of your minds. Wayne, you might ask if I can have anything by simply assuming the state of its fulfillment in the silence. Does this mean I no longer need to take action in the physical world? My friends, action will always be necessary in this three-dimensional world. But when you operate from the silence, from the state of your wish fulfilled, your actions will flow naturally and effortlessly from this new state of being. You will find yourself inspired to take actions that you might never have thought of before. Opportunities will present themselves that align perfectly with your desire. Remember, the outer world must conform to your inner assumptions. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the actions necessary for its manifestation will flow naturally from that state. You need not concern yourself with the how. Your only task is to persist in the assumption of the wish fulfilled. Let me give you an example from my own life. There was a time when I desired to travel to Barbados, but I had no money for such a trip. Instead of focusing on my lack of funds, I entered into the silence and assumed a state of being in Barbados. I felt the warmth of the sun on my skin, heard the sound of the waves, smelled the salt in the air. I lived from this state my imagination. Within a short time, I received a letter from my brother in Barbados inviting me to visit and offering to pay for my passage. You see, I did not make this happen. I simply aligned myself with the state of being in Barbados, and the means for my journey arranged themselves. This, my friends, is the power of silence. It is the power to transcend your current circumstances and align yourself with the reality you desire to experience. It is the power to remember your true nature as a divine creator, one with the infinite power that creates and sustains the universe. Now, I want to address something that many of you may be experiencing as you begin to practice this technique. You may find that as you enter into the silence and assume the state of your wish fulfilled, doubts begin to creep in. You may hear a voice in your mind saying, "This is foolish. This can't possibly work." My dear friends, do not be discouraged by these doubts. They are merely the protests of your old concept of self fighting to maintain its existence. Remember, every time you assume a new state, you are essentially dying to your old self and being reborn. It is natural for the old self to resist this change. The key is to persist despite these doubts. Return again and again to the silence. Feel the reality of your desire fulfilled. Let the doubts pass through your mind like clouds across the sky that do not engage with them. Keep your focus on the feeling of your wish fulfilled. In time, you will find that these doubts begin to fade. They will be replaced by a quiet confidence, a knowing that your desire is already yours. This is the state from which miracles flow. Let us now consider another aspect of this practice. As you enter into the silence and assume the state of your wish fulfilled, you may find that ideas and inspirations begin to flow. You may suddenly know exactly what steps to take to move towards your desire. You may receive insights that solve problems you've been struggling with. This, my friends, is the voice of your higher self, your God self, speaking to you. In the silence, you create the space to hear this voice clearly. It is always speaking to you, but in the noise and business of daily life, its whispers are often drowned out. When you receive these inspirations, act on them. Trust them. They are the bridge between your inner assumption and its outer manifestation. Remember, God's ways are past finding out. The means by which your desire will be fulfilled may be very different from what you might expect or plan. Now, let's address a common misconception. Some of you may be thinking, But Wayne, if I can have anything I want just by assuming the feeling of its fulfillment, isn't that selfish? Shouldn't I be focusing on helping others instead of fulfilling my own desires? My dear friends, this is a false dichotomy. By fulfilling your own desires, by becoming the best version of yourself, you are in the best position to help others. Moreover, as you raise your own consciousness, you raise the consciousness of all humanity. We are all one, all interconnected in the divine mind. Remember the words of Jesus, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." By manifesting your desires, by living your best life, you inspire others to do the same. You show them what is possible. You become a living testament to the power that lies within each of us. Furthermore, as you practice this technique and begin to experience its power, you will naturally want to share it with others. You will want to help them unlock their own divine potential. This is not selfishness. This is the highest form of service. Now let us delve even deeper into the nature of this silence. You see, in your waking state, you experience yourself as separate from the world around you. You see yourself as a small, limited being in a vast, often hostile universe. But this perception is an illusion, a product of your physical senses and your conditioned mind. In the silence, you transcend this illusion of separation. You experience your true nature as pure awareness, as consciousness itself. From this state, you realize that you are not in the world. The world is in you. All that you perceive, all that you experience, is taking place within your heart. This realization is the true meaning behind the biblical statement. The kingdom of God is within you. The entire universe, with all its infinite possibilities, exists within your consciousness. In the silence, you gain access to this infinite potential. You realize that you are not a small part of the universe. You are the universe expressing itself as a human being. From this state of expanded awareness, manifesting your desires is as natural as breathing. You see that your desires are not something to be attained in the future, but something to be selected from the infinite possibilities that already exist within you. This, my friends, is why being silent can get you everything in life. In the silence, you remember your true nature. You step into your power as a divine creator. You align yourself with the infinite intelligence that creates and sustains the universe. Now, some of you may be wondering, but Wayne, if I can have anything I want, what should I desire? How do I know what to manifest? My dear friends, the answer to this question also lies in the silence. As you practice entering this state of expanded awareness, you will find that your desires begin to change. The ego-driven wants and needs that once seemed so important begin to fall away. They are replaced by deeper, more authentic desires that align with your true nature. You may find yourself desiring not just material abundance, but a sense of purpose and fulfillment. You may desire not just a romantic partner, but a deep soul-level connection. You may desire not just success in your career, but the opportunity to make a meaningful contribution to the world. These deeper desires come from your higher self, your God self. They're the universe calling you to express more of your divine nature, to fulfill your unique purpose in this grand tapestry of life. As you align with these deeper desires and manifest them in your life, you will experience a level of joy and fulfillment beyond anything you've known before. You will know that you are living in harmony with your true nature, expressing the fullness of who you really are. Now, let us address a question that may be arising in some of your minds. You might ask, if everything exists in my consciousness, if I am creating my reality, does this mean I am responsible for all the negative things in my life and in the world? This is a profound question, my friends, and it deserves a thoughtful answer. Yes, in a sense, we are responsible for our experience of reality. Our assumptions, our beliefs, our state of consciousness shape our perception and our experience of the world. However, This does not mean we should blame ourselves for negative experiences or feel guilty about the state of the world. Remember, most of us have been operating from a place of unconsciousness, unaware of our creative power. We've been reacting to life based on our conditioning, our fears, our limited beliefs about what's possible. The realization of your creative power is not a burden, it is a liberation. It means that no matter what your current circumstances, no matter what challenges you face, you have the power to change your reality. You are not a victim of circumstances, you are the creator of your experience. As for the state of the world, remember that we are all one in consciousness. As you raise your own consciousness, as you manifest more love, peace, and abundance in your own life, you contribute to raising the consciousness of all humanity. This is how we change the world, not by fighting against what we don't want, but by embodying and manifesting what we do want. Now, my dear friends, as we near the end of our discussion, I want to leave you with a final powerful truth. The silence we've been discussing is not something external to you. It is not something you need to achieve or attain. It is your very nature, your true self. You are that silence. You are that pure awareness in which all experiences arise and subside. As you go forth from here, I encourage you to make this practice of entering the silence a regular part of your life. Start with just a few minutes each day. Gradually increase the duration as you become more comfortable with the practice. Remember, it's not about forcing your mind to be quiet. It's about gently shifting your attention to the silence that is always there beneath the surface of your thoughts. In this silence, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, live from the end. Feel the joy, the gratitude, the wonder of having your desire already realized. Do this not just once, but again and again until it becomes your dominant state of consciousness. As you do this, you will find your outer world beginning to shift and change to match your inner state. Finally, my dear friends, remember that you are divine beings, creators of your reality. The power to shape your life, to manifest your deepest desires, lies within you. It always has. In the silence, you remember this truth. In the silence, you claim your divine heritage. In the silence, you become who you truly are. And from this place of remembrance, of alignment with your true self, miracles become your natural state of being. Go forth, be silent, and receive everything that life has to offer. For it is already yours. It always has been. Thank you and good night. As we embark on this journey together, I want you to cast aside all preconceived notions of strength and movement. Forget what the world has told you about being strong or moving on. For in this eternal moment, we shall redefine these concepts in a way that will awaken you to your true nature as a divine being capable of shaping your reality through the power of your imagination. Let us begin by understanding what it truly means to be strong. Strength, my dear friends, is not a physical attribute, nor is it a measure of your ability to endure hardship. True strength lies in your capacity to imagine and believe. It is the unwavering faith in the reality of your desires, even when your senses deny their existence. This is the strength that moves mountains, that paths seas, that transforms the very fabric of your world. Consider for a moment the story of David and Goliath. The world saw a small shepherd boy facing an insurmountable giant, but David saw something entirely different. In his mind's eye, he had already defeated Goliath. His strength lay not in his physical prowess, but in his unshakable belief in his victory. And it was this belief, this inner knowing, that manifested as the reality we now recount as history. You see, my beloved listeners, to be strong is to hold fast to your imaginal acts. It is to persist in the assumption that what you desire is already yours, regardless of the appearances that surround you. This strength is not born of muscle or sinew, but of the boundless power of your consciousness. Now let us turn our attention to the concept of moving on. In the world of Caesar, moving on often implies leaving something behind, running away from pain or disappointment. But I tell you this, true movement is not physical. It is a shift in consciousness. To move on is to ascend to a higher state of awareness, to elevate your thoughts and feelings to align with your desired reality. Imagine, if you will, a man trapped in a prison cell. He may pace back and forth within his confines, believing he is moving, but he remains imprisoned. Now picture this same man sitting quietly in his cell. Yet in his mind, he walks freely under the open sky, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face, the grass beneath his feet. Which man, I ask you, has truly moved? The one who has shifted his consciousness, who has moved in his imagination, is the one who has truly moved on. For all physical movement is but a shadow, a reflection of the movement that first takes place in consciousness. So when I say to you, be strong and move on, I am invoking you to harness the creative power of your imagination. Be strong in your conviction that you are the operant power in your world. Move on by shifting your consciousness to embody the state of your fulfilled desire. Let me share with you a principle that underlies this truth, the law of assumption. This law states that you become what you assume yourself to be. If you persist in the assumption that you are the person you wish to be, living the life you desire to live, that assumption will harden into fact. This, my friends, is the true meaning of being strong and moving on. Consider a woman who desires a loving relationship. She has faced heartbreak and disappointment, and the world tells her to be strong and move on by hardening her heart, by learning to live alone. But I say to her, be strong in your assumption that you are deeply loved and cherished. Move on by shifting your consciousness to the state of being in a fulfilling relationship. Feel the love, the companionship, the joy as if it were already yours. For in truth it is in the reality of your imagination, which is the one true reality. Now some of you may be thinking, but Wayne, I have tried to imagine better circumstances and nothing has changed to you. I say this, your imaginal acts have not failed. They have borne fruit exactly as you have planted them. If you have imagined with doubt, with fear, with a sense of effort, then those very states have manifested in your world. The secret, my dear friends, is to imagine from the end. See your desire is already fulfilled. Feel the naturalness of its completion. Do not strive to make it so, for in striving you affirm its absence. Instead, relax into the knowing that it is done. This is what it means to be strong, to have unshakable faith in the reality of your imaginal act. And in this state of faith, you move on. You move from the consciousness of lack to the consciousness of abundance. You move from the awareness of loneliness to the awareness of love. You move from the perception of illness to the knowing of perfect health. This movement, this shift in consciousness, is the most powerful motion you can ever make. Let me illustrate this with a personal experience. Many years ago, I found myself in New York City, penniless and unknown. The world would have told me to be strong and move on by seeking menial work, by lowering my aspirations. But I knew the truth of what I now share with you. I assumed the state of being a successful lecturer, sharing these profound truths with eager audiences. I lived from that assumption, feeling the joy of it, the fulfillment of it. And lo and behold, within a short span of time, I was standing before audiences sharing these very principles. The outer world rearranged itself to match my inner assumption. I did not physically strive or struggle. I moved in consciousness and the physical reality followed suit. This, my friends, is the pattern of the universe. First, the imaginal act. Then its physical reflection. Your outer world is nothing more than a shadow cast by the light of your consciousness. Change the consciousness, and the shadow must change. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but what of my current circumstances? What of my struggles and pains to you? I say this, your circumstances, no matter how seemingly real or solid, are but reflections of past assumptions. They have no power to persist unless you grant them that power through your continued assumption of their reality. Be strong then in assuming a new state. Move on by shifting your consciousness to embody that which you desire to be. Your current circumstances will dissolve and reform in harmony with your new assumption just as naturally as ice melts in the warmth of the sun. Consider the biblical story of the Exodus. The Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, their circumstances dire and seemingly unchangeable. But Moses, understanding the principle we discussed tonight, assumed the state of freedom. He moved in consciousness to the promised land long before a single physical step was taken. It was this movement in consciousness, this assumption of the state of freedom, that set in motion the events that led to the physical liberation of his people. The plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, these were but outer manifestations of an inner shift in consciousness. You, my dear listeners, are faced with your own Egypt, be it financial hardship, ill health, unfulfilling relationships, or any other form of bondage. The world may tell you to be strong and move on by gritting your teeth and enduring. But I tell you, be strong in your assumption of freedom, of abundance, of health, of love. Move on by shifting your consciousness to the state of your fulfilled desire. Imagine yourself as the person you wish to be. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Speak, think, and act from that state. This is true strength, the strength to persist in your imaginal act, despite all evidence to the contrary. This is true movement, the shift in consciousness that precedes all outer change. Now let us delve deeper into the practical application of this principle. How does one maintain strength in the face of contrary evidence? How does one move on when the senses scream of limitation and lack? The key, my friends, lies in understanding the nature of your own consciousness. You are not a helpless observer of your thoughts and feelings. You are the author of them. Just as an author can revise a story, you can revise the contents of your consciousness. When doubts arise, when fear creeps in, recognize them for what they are, old patterns of thought, old assumptions seeking to reassert themselves. Do not fight them, for in fighting you give them power. Instead, gently but firmly replace them with your new assumption. If, for instance, you are assuming the state of financial abundance and you find yourself worrying about bills, do not bill yourself for this lapse. Simply revise it. In your imagination, see yourself easily paying those bills. Feel the relief, the confidence, the abundance. This revision, done consistently, will transform your outer world. Remember, my dear listeners, that your imagination is not bound by the constraints of physical reality. In your imagination, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. And as you persist in this imaginal act, as you live from the assumption of its fulfillment, you will find your outer world reshaping itself to match your inner vision. This is what it truly means to be strong and move on. It is not a matter of forcing change through willpower or action. It is a matter of changing your concept of self, of assuming the state of your wish fulfilled, and letting the outer world conform to this new inner reality. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. Sold into slavery by his brothers, imprisoned on false charges, Joseph could have succumbed to bitterness and despair. The world would have understood if he had merely endured, if he had simply been strong enough to survive his ordeals. But Joseph did more than survive. He thrived. How? By maintaining an unshakable assumption of his divine nature, of his destined greatness. In the depths of the prison, he assumed the state of a wise counselor, of a leader, and lo and behold, he rose to become the second most powerful man in Egypt, saving not only himself, but his entire family and nation. This, my friends, is the power that lies within you. No matter your current circumstances, no matter the challenges you face, you have within you the divine capacity to assume any state you desire. And as you assume that state, as you live from it in your imagination, your outer world must, by cosmic law, reorganize itself to reflect your assumption. Now, some of you may be wondering, how long must I persist in my assumption before I see results to you? I say this, time is a construct of the human mind. In the realm of imagination, in the reality of consciousness, there is only the eternal now. Your desire is not something to be attained in the future. It is a present reality in your consciousness. Live from that reality now. Feel its truth, its naturalness now. For in truth, the moment you can feel the reality of desire, it is yours. The outer manifestation is merely catching up to the inner truth. Let me share with you a technique that I have found particularly powerful in maintaining this state of faith, this strength of assumption. I call it living in the end before you sleep each night. Construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of your desire. Make it as vivid and as real as you can. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the naturalness of your desire fulfilled. As you drift off to sleep in this state, you're impressing this reality upon your subconscious mind. And your subconscious, which knows no difference between imaginal and physical experience, will begin to work tirelessly to bring about the conditions necessary for the outer manifestation of your inner experience. This, my dear friends, is true strength, the strength to persist in your imaginal act night after night, regardless of outer appearances. And this is true movement, the shift in consciousness that occurs as you live more and more from the state of your wish fulfilled. Now let us address a question that often arises. What of action? Should we not take action towards our goals to this? I say, of course, take action when you are inspired to do so. But understand that inspired action flows naturally from your assumed state. When you truly assume the state of your wish fulfilled, you will find yourself naturally taking actions in harmony with that state. These actions will not feel like effort or struggle. They will feel natural, inevitable, joyful. Consider a man who assumes the state of being a successful author. He doesn't force himself to write. He writes because in his assumed state, that's what he naturally does. The words flow, the ideas come. Because in his consciousness, he is already that successful author. This is the difference between action born of lack and action born of fulfillment. When you act from a state of lack, trying to get something you don't have, your actions are tinged with anxiety, with effort. But when you act from the state of fulfillment, your actions are effortless expressions of your assumed reality. So be strong in your assumption, move on to the consciousness of your wish fulfilled, and let your actions flow naturally from that state. This is the path of least resistance, the path of joy and fulfillment. Now, my dear listeners, I want to address a vital point. Some of you may be thinking, but Wayne, I have responsibilities, challenges, problems that demand my attention. How can I ignore these and live in an imaginal state? To you, I say this, you are not ignoring your challenges, you are transcending them. By assuming the state of your wish fulfilled, you are elevating your consciousness above the level at which these problems exist. And from this higher state, solutions will present themselves that were invisible from your previous state of consciousness. Remember, the outer world is a reflection of your inner state. As you change your inner state, your perception and experience of the outer world must change. What seemed an insurmountable problem from one state of consciousness may dissolve entirely or present a simple solution when viewed from a higher state. This is why I urge you to be strong and move on. Be strong in maintaining your desired state, regardless of appearances. Move on to a higher level of consciousness, where your desires are not future possibilities, but present realities. Let me illustrate this with a story. A woman once came to me in deep distress. Her husband had left her for another, and her world was shattered. She wanted to know how she could be strong and move on. The world would have advised her to accept her loss, to harden her heart, to learn to live alone. But I guided her to imagine a scene that implied her desired end. She chose to imagine lying in bed at night, feeling her husband's presence beside her, feeling the wedding ring on her finger, feeling the love and contentment of a happy marriage. Night after night, she enacted this scene in her imagination as she fell asleep. During the day, she lived from the assumption that she was happily married. When doubts arose, when pain threatened to overwhelm her, she gently but firmly returned to her assumption. Weeks passed, and then months, and then one day her husband returned, not out of guilt or obligation, but with a renewed love and commitment. Their marriage was restored, stronger and more loving than before. You see, my friends, this woman was strong, not in fighting against her reality, but in maintaining her desired state in her imagination. She moved on not by accepting a future without her husband, but by shifting her consciousness to a state where their love was restored. This is the pattern you must follow, regardless of your specific desire, be it health, love, or any other form of fulfillment. Assume the state of your wish fulfilled. Be strong in that assumption. Move on to live from that state, letting go of any contradictory thoughts or feelings. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, but never, what if I assume a state and nothing happens? What if I imagine and still fail to you? I say this, failure is impossible. What you perceive as failure is merely your manifestation in progress. Remember, your outer world cannot help but reflect your inner state. If you have truly assumed your desired state, if you have moved your consciousness to live from the end, then your manifestation is as certain as dawn following the night. What appears as delay or failure is often the necessary reorganization of your outer world to match your new inner state. Trust in this process. Be strong in your knowing that what you have assumed in your imagination must externalize in your world. Consider the growth of a tree from a seed. Once planted, the seed doesn't immediately sprout into a full-grown tree. There's a period where, to outer appearances, nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, profound changes are taking place. The seed is gathering resources, breaking open, sending out roots. Your imaginal act is like that seed. Once planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious, it begins to grow. The fact that you can't yet see its outer manifestation doesn't negate its reality. Be strong in your faith during this gestation period. Move on in your consciousness, living more and more from your desired state. Let me share with you another principle that will aid you in this process. I call it the law of reversibility. This law states that if a physical event can produce a psychological state, then that psychological state can produce the physical event. For instance, if winning a large sum of money would make you feel secure and abundant, then feeling secure and abundant can attract that large sum of money to you. If being in a loving relationship would make you feel cherished and happy, then feeling cherished and happy can attract that loving relationship to you. This is why it's so vital to live from the end, to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. By doing so, you are engaging the law of reversibility, setting in motion the forces that will bring about the physical conditions that match your psychological state. So when I say be strong and move on, I am inviting you to be strong in maintaining the psychological state that corresponds to your desire for love. Move on by shifting your consciousness to live from that state regardless of outer appearances. Now, my dear listeners, as we approach the conclusion of our discussion, I want to address a question that often arises. Never people ask if imagination creates reality. Why do we see so much suffering in the world? Why don't people just imagine better circumstances for themselves? To this I say people create their reality through the imagination, but often unconsciously. Most people are not aware of their creative power. They react to life, assuming states based on their circumstances, not realizing that their circumstances are the result of their previous assumptions. This is why I share these truths with you, to awaken you to your divine nature, to your creative power. When you become aware that your imagination creates your reality, you move from being a passive victim of circumstances to being the active creator of your life. This is the true meaning of being strong and moving on. It is the strength to assume responsibility for your life, recognizing that your outer world is a reflection of your inner state. It is moving on from a state of unconscious creation to one of conscious, deliberate creation. Imagine a world where everyone understood this truth, where each person consciously assumed the state of their fulfilled desires. Such a world would be free from conflict, from lack, from suffering. For in such a world, each person would know that their good comes not at the expense of others, but from the infinite abundance of their own imagination. You, my dear friends, have the power to create such a world. It begins with you, with your assumption, with your shift in consciousness. As you embody these truths, as you live from the state of your wishes fulfilled, you become a light in the world, inspiring others to awaken to their own divine nature. So I urge you, be strong in your assumption of your desired state. Move on to live from that state, letting go of all that contradicts it. Know that as you do this, you are not just changing your individual life, you are contributing to the transformation of the entire world. For you are not separate from the world. You are the world. Your consciousness is the very substance from which your reality is formed. As you elevate your consciousness, you elevate the world. In closing, my beloved listeners, remember this: you are divine beings endowed with the creative power of the universe. Your imagination is the very workshop in which your world is shaped. Be strong in your use of this power. Move on to embody the highest, most beautiful state you can conceive. Let your light shine brightly, illuminating not just your own path, but the paths of all those around you. For as you assume the state of your fulfilled desires, as you live from the end, you become a living testimony to the transformative power of imagination. Go forth then with this knowledge. Be strong in your faith, unwavering in your assumption. Move on to live from the state of your wishes fulfilled, and watch in wonder as your world transforms to match the beauty of your inner vision. Remember, my friends, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It is not a place to be reached, but a state to be assumed. Assume it now. Live from it now. For in truth, there is only now this eternal moment in which all possibilities exist. Be strong in your knowing of this truth. Move on to embody it fully. And in doing so, you will discover the limitless power that has been within you all along. You will realize that you are the author of your life, the creator of your world. This, my dear friends, is the true meaning of be strong and move on. It is the strength to imagine boldly, to assume states that transcend your current circumstances. It is the movement from limitation to liberation, from unconscious reaction to conscious creation. As you leave here tonight, carry this truth with you. Let it infuse every aspect of your being. Be strong in your divine nature, in your creative power. Move on to assume the highest, most beautiful states you can conceive. For in doing so, you fulfill your destiny as a divine creator, shaping your world through the power of your imagination. Go now and create wonderfully. The world awaits your awakening.